Taking a step back in time, we do it every Monday here on Daybreak during Story Time with Aunt Phil.
This week, author Laurel Downing Bill takes us back to the beginning of Lake Hood and Spenard when it was just woods and wilderness. The Lake Hood Seaplane Base began as two smaller lakes, Lake Hood to the west, Lake Spenard to the east. In the 1970s, the state decided to connect the two and dredged a canal. And now Lake Hood is the busiest seaplane base in the world. But that wasn't always the case. The story begins with a man named Joe Spenard.
Yeah, feisty little Joe Spenard came into the area in 1915. He would bed in Valdez, where he had a transfer business. And he started chopping down trees in the area that we now know as Spenard, even though it was against the law, because it was a forest reserve, but he didn't really much care. And then one day, as he was going through the timbered area, he stumbled across a beautiful lake. And he thought, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. So he filed for the rights to cut down the trees for his homestead, but there's never been any proof that he actually filed a claim for a homestead.
And so after that, a resort comes up, and it's kind of a booming area.
That's right. He created this wonderful resort. It had roadhouse, it had bathhouses, swimming area, and the people of Anchorage just loved to come down here, go swimming, and have picnics.
He was able to save up enough money, and he bought a truck.
Yes, he bought a Rio truck, and it was bright yellow, and he would wear a bright yellow suit so he could match his truck. And then he plastered lost and found signs all over the truck, as well as the time of the tides. In fact, he had a slogan put on his radiator, and it said, "Time and tide will not wait, but City Express is never late."
Joe Spenard became known for having a good time and someone who would accept any challenge.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. I came across a newspaper article that said he accepted a bet from a gentleman who owned the Robards Pool Hall that he couldn't drive his Rio through the front doors, and that Joe would get a bunch of cigars if he did it. Well, Joe jumped in his Rio and rammed his truck through. Well, they said that Joe ended up continuing to smoke his pipe, so I'm guessing he didn't win that bet.
No, so what happened to Joe? Did he stick around?
Well, he wanted to. In September of 1917, he sold his beloved Rio and he headed south. He had some heart issues, but when he left, he said, "I'll be back in the spring," but he never did come back. In fact, he died in Sacramento in 1934.
So he may have died in Sacramento in 1934, but his name lives on in our eclectic community of Spenard. In 1923, President Harding, he spent an afternoon at the rec resort at the Lake Spenard that Joe built. During his trip, he dedicated the Alaska Railroad and drove the final spike into the tracks in Fairbanks. So even a standing president went to go visit this resort. Joe Spenard popped up.
Looked pretty sweet, even in pictures right now. Wouldn't mind stopping in.
I love that he was a feisty man, because I feel like Spenard needs like someone like that found the area.
The character fits
Yes.
the current bill, certainly.